Where are we in the life cycle of NFTs and crypto right now, from your perspective?
Sure, I think we're still really early. I think there's a lot of use cases that people are sort of exploring with this technology, but I think we've just barely scratched the surface. And I think in terms of infrastructure, a lot can be done to sort of like build up and make these things easier to use, easier to own, safer to own. And I think there's just a lot of ways that creators can still connect with their audience that we've not sort of figured out. And I really look at this technology as being very much like a web page. What could we use a web page for? And we're still figuring that out now, 20 years into the internet. The idea of just owning a virtual item is something that could be applied to many, many different sort of sectors and sort of like use cases. And I think we really are just very, very early in that still.
What's interesting is you're coming together with Sam Spratt, another NFT artist, also AI artists like Grimes, who's sort of working with that from a voice perspective. But also, Christie's has got Gucci there. And I'm interested in brands. You've worked with brands. You've offered your art to them. And we're seeing LVMH really adopt it. Are brands wanting to spend on this at the moment?
I think it's something where brands need to be very careful how they're approaching the space. And I think they need to be very thoughtful that this is a little more permanent in a way that once you release an NFT, it kind of doesn't go away. Versus with a lot of other sort of marketing campaigns, it can be like, well, we tried this and it failed and whatever. People are, sometimes being asked to invest, real money in these things, and there is an expectation that they will sort of hold value or sort of, gain value. And so I think people need to approach it very sort of like thoughtfully. And I think especially now, the more grassroots you can sort of have your campaign and be something where it's just about engaging your audience and having fun and then just seeing where it goes from there, I think those are the type of projects that have a lot better chance of success.
But there are many examples where an NFT does not retain its value. The most high profile this month being Justin Bieber's Bored Ape NFT. Its value's down 95% from when he bought it. Does artificial intelligence change that? If you use AI in the creation of an NFT, does it help to retain its underlying value?
Definitely not. It's something where the way you use AI has to be a thoughtful, new way that people see having sort of like lasting value. And I think that's not necessarily easier to do with AI because this is a tool that everybody now has. And so if it's something that is easy for you to do with AI and make, it probably will not have sort of like lasting value because anybody could do that. So I think you really still need to have something that is a truly new, innovative idea. AI is not some sort of like quick fix to give value to NFTs.
I'm sorry, I have to ask, Mike Winklemann, AKA Beeple. What's the story behind Beeple, the name?
So the Beeple it's a toy from the 80s. It's a little sort of like fuzzy thing that kind of like lights up and makes sounds. That was a long time ago. That was 20 plus years ago that we started down that path.
Also, what was a long time ago, Beeple, is kind of your AI doomerism. I'm like thinking of interviews you did back in 2020, some of the art you did of a baby Yoda, which speaks to Ed's loves, but like sort of almost becoming a mad AI robotic baby Yoda. You were doing this dystopian art to make us reflect and question the direction of technology. Are you still as doomer as you were back in 2020 about AI?
I am definitely worried about AI, but I think just technology in general. I think there's a lot of pluses to it, of course. I mean, sort of picture of that, but I think there are also a lot of negatives to this stuff that I think are worth exploring in sort of like art. And I think things are moving very fast, especially with AI, and seeing how fast just in the last year these things have progressed and sort of every week new technologies are coming out with new sort of like capabilities. I think it is something where as much as possible, we need to stop and reflect on the effects of these technologies on a more broadly sort of like global scale.
Many trying to answer how to do that, regulators trying to as well. What's interesting about your art is you ask people basically to question their own beliefs in many ways. I'm going to ask a sort of a pointed question here, but how do you get people to question the value of NFTs at this moment? Because they have dropped a lot. You said half of the point is that the way that brands are experimenting is they're meant to hold value or gain value.
Sure.
Will they come back? How do you see value erosion for your market right now?
100%, yeah. Everything is down, and it's sort of a case where you're seeing the people who are in this, purely for the sort of like speculative value, a lot of them have exited as the sort of hype around this technology has sort of died down. And you saw the same sort of thing again with the beginning of the internet, where there was a mass, everything was .com this and, .com that, and it's something where that's sort of, I guess, what humans do. They get really sort of, jacked about something, and then there's this sort of trough of disillusionment, and people sort of, settle into what are the actual real sort of like use cases around this technology. And the people who are using this new medium to do innovative things and are sort of sticking with it, there are many of those people. And I think it will continue to sort of like grow and find an audience that this resonates with. And I think we're still very early in the concept of sort of owning digital things, just as being like a sort of societal norm. And so I think, especially looking at younger generations and kids with Roblox and Fortnite skins and all this, it's so natural for them to apply value to a virtual object. And so I think it's something, the sort of trends definitely trend towards more people sort of putting value in things that are, virtual, or a combination of virtual and physical.
Beeple, you are a digital artist. You opened a studio in March. You have this relationship with Christie's. How much money are you making from all this?
Well, they're just really getting right to it there. How much money you're making, really, guy? That's the question. It's something where, again, it's to me, it's about what sort of value are we creating around this stuff? Because I think that is where the sort of like money will come from. If you are doing something that people see as sort of new and innovative, and that has been always the case for art. Again, painting the soup cans, and it was sort of like, that's nothing. And then it was like, wait a second, that's a new way of looking at art. That's a new way of thinking about what art could say, what it could be. And anytime you're doing that, it will have lasting value. If you're not doing that, it will not. That's all it is.
Some spicy language, which some of our viewers will have to swallow for a moment. Lastly, what do you want to learn about where technology goes in the next 5,000 days? That's what you're going to be sitting down and talking about and theorizing.
Yeah, I think to me it's about sort of looking back at where sort of this stuff has been, and what have been the sort of historic use cases, and what have been the ways that people have interacted with this technology, and figuring out what are the sort of like pain points there. Because I think it is still something where it's very complicated to buy an NFT still. And I think, what are the ways that we can make that simpler? What are the ways that we can bring people into owning virtual objects and virtual sort of like ownership, and educate them about that in a way that makes it less scary, less complicated, less cumbersome? I think those are the things we really need to focus on with technology.